schedule, we have another Draupadi Vastrapaharana talk only by Lakshmi Priyaji, who was going to talk about, who had to talk about the freedom fight time Tamil retelling by Subramanya Bharati uh, about the Draupadi Vastraparana incident from a modern perspective, from a freedom fight perspective. But unfortunately, Lakshmi Priya ji got sick, in really unwell. So now we are requesting Swetha Prakash ji to speak in the place of Lakshmi Priya ji. Swetha Prakash ji's talk was scheduled later in the symposium, but now she is going to present the talk in the slot that is allotted to her friend Lakshmi Priya. And Swetha Prakash ji is a very closely associated person for Indica. She is the founder of Story Practices. She is the founder of School Story Curriculum. Uh, she is a doctoral fellow in psychology at the National School of Leadership. Uh, she won the Charles Wallace India Trust Award for studying postmodernism and creative writing at the Swiss University of Edinburgh. Shweta has won the Times and Scottish Book Trust Jura New Writer Award for spending a month at the Writers' Retreat at the Isle of Jura, Scotland. She is the author of 20 books, including African Creation Mix Club, Storytelling and Education, School Story Curriculum, Art of the Story. Her book Padma Goes to Space with Tulika is a critically acclaimed national bestseller. Swetha holds an MA in writing from the University of Warwick and a post-graduation uh, in communication management from Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. Swetha has founded School Story Curriculum with the Learn Curve for Girls and Story Practices for Story Knowledge Systems of India. We have a collaborative project with uh, Ratnam Chitturi Garu in USA called Grandma Tales. She is looking after that project also. Uh, she is going to now talk about Sarala Das's Odia Mahabharata, particularly one topic which is uh, always spoken about when this Odia Mahabharata is talked about. Navagunjara is a motif which Sarala Das introduces, and our Swetha is going to talk about the Advaitic source for the Navagunjara motif in Sarala Das's Odia Mahabharata. Over to you, Swetha.
Thank you, sir. I'll just share the presentation. I'd like to thank Indika for giving me this opportunity. So the topic today is the Navagunjara, which is a form of Krishna Vishnu, who is introduced to us for the first time in Sarala Das, who is an Odia poet, Mahabharata. And the Advaitic source of this particular motive, story, and image of Krishna in Indian culture. I first encountered this image of the Navagunjara in Orissa Pata Chitra paintings and was intrigued by them. Today, we are going to cover the nature of the narrative, which is the story and image of the Navagunjara and what it signifies. Advaitic oneness, the immersion of the Advaitic oneness and tracing the source of the image and story of the Navagunjara, and the triad of knowing, the validity of plural knowledge systems through an understanding of Advaita Vedanta, and the meeting with a new recreation of the Mahabharata, understanding the context to the Navagunjara, the unusual narratives in Sarala Das's Mahabharata. So we encountered the story of the Navagunjara first time in Sarala Das's Mahabharata, which is known as Sarala Mahabharata. Sarala Das is a 15th century Odia poet, and his original name was Siddheshwar Parida. He is a devotee of the goddess Sarala, and it is said that when he was a child, he was singing in the fields, and the goddess was pleased with the way he was singing, and she said that he will be gifted with the gift of poetry. And also, what is said is that the Mahabharata, according to folk legend, the Mahabharata that which he composed was something which the goddess Sarala informed him of, and it is on that basis that he composed this Mahabharata. Sarla Das is not from a traditional family, and he did not receive a traditional education, and he has educated himself. However, his retelling is extremely critical and important in the Indian tradition and in the Odia tradition, where this is the first Mahabharata retelling. The image of the Navagunjara is first appears to us in this retelling. The Navagunjara is a form of Krishna. The story appears where Arjuna is doing penance on a hill, and in front of him appears this magnificent creature. And the creature has the head of a rooster, the neck of a peacock, the hand of a human holding a lotus, the hump of a bull, the leg of an elephant, the body of a lion, the leg of a tiger, the leg of a horse, and the tail of a snake. So, this creature is composed of nine different creatures, and Arjuna is petrified. He doesn't know what to say or think, and he decides to kill the creature. So, he takes his bow and arrow and he's prepared to shoot when he sees that standing in front of him is none other than Vishwaroopa Krishna. And because of this, Arjuna bows down before him. It's interesting that this Mahabharata doesn't have a form of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the Vishwaroop darshan of Krishna, which is presented in lieu of the Mahabharata in this context. The Navagunjara has nine attributes, all of which are considered auspicious in Indic thought. The first is the head. The head is of a rooster, and this is Kanda or Murga's Vahana. Then there is an elephant leg, and which is elephants are obviously associated with Lord Ganesha. And then there is a tiger's leg, which is tigers are Durga's Vahana. There is a horse's leg, and which is horses are again sacred in Hinduism, associated with the Ashwamedh Yajna. There is a human hand, and the Mahabharata itself is the story of the Nara Arjuna. Then there is a peacock's neck, and Krishna is always surrounded by peacock, and he is known as somebody who has a peacock feather as an attribute. Then there is a bull's hump. Bull or the Rishabh Vahana is Shiva's Vahana. There is a lion's body, and lions are associated severely with Lord Narsimha, Sharabeshwar, Pratyangira, and the tail is of a serpent, which represents the Kundalini, Adishesh, Manasa Devi. So all the different aspects of the Navagunjara are aspects that we have seen in Hinduism many times before. Now, the Navagunjara is a darshan of Krishna to Arjuna, where Arjuna experiences deep fear, and he responds with rage, and he tries to actually kill the Navagunjara until he realizes that this is a Vishwaroop darshan of Krishna, and he transcends from a state of fear to one of awe. And this Adbhut form of Krishna takes him to an Advaitic state. Now, I'll look at this concept of Navagunjara from varied Advaitic perceptions, and also about how this knowledge of Navagunjara, which is available to us through the Sarla Mahabharata and subsequently through Orissa Pata Chitras, is something that comes to us through the Advaitic notion of the knower, the person who's creating the knowledge itself, in this case the Navagunjara, and the act of knowing the knowledge as one. So, how it is Advaita Vedanta which helps us create these creative tellings of the Mahabharata. So, I'm going to look at different aspects of Advaita Vedanta here. Advaita through Navagunjara, Ishvara's unique form. The Navakunjara, by combining different aspects of different animals, shows the oneness of all creation. Brahman or Krishna is the material cause, the Karta, and is in this Adbhut form. Navagunjara shows that the Karta is one with the Karanam, or the creator is one with the creation. And through this, Arjuna is granted the Vishwaroop Darshan of Krishna. In the Sarala Mahabharata, there is no Bhagavad Gita, so through this, we get the Vishwaroop Darshan of Krishna. And the four questions of Vedanta are answered in the image of the Navagunjara Krishna. What is Jiva? Jiva is Arjuna here. What is Jagat? The material world of creatures. Who is Ishvara? Creator of Jiva and Jagat. Krishna is Navagunjara. And what is Bandha? Not seeing Krishna in the creation. Arjuna, who is not able to believe that it is Krishna standing in front of him, gets terrified of seeing the creature in front of him, and in this state of terror, moves to a state of violence. And then, from violence, he sees, recognizes there is an act of recognition or self recognition of the Supreme Self, which is Krishna in the Adbhut form. And then he moves to Advaita Vedanta into Bhakti. So now, one of the questions I had was that how do we determine that a knowledge system that has come to us through a regional telling and it has changed into an image of the Brahman, here in this case Krishna, which we worship through, say, Pata Chitra paintings, is a valid knowledge system. And I wanted to look at Vedanta to understand how the validity of this knowledge system could be understood. So when we have a knowledge system, we are able to look at the different aspects. What Advaita says is that there is perceivable knowledge or perception. The second way of acquiring a knowledge system is through inference of the perceivable. The third is, of course, the revelation. And in the Indic context, we refer to the Shruti and the Smriti, and Vyasa Mahabharata comes into this category. The fourth category is that of Advaita or oneness, where there is a state of immersion in the sacred, as is experienced by often retellers of the Mahabharata in the regional languages, where there is an experience of the oneness of the knowledge, the knower, and the act of knowledge, the act of knowing, the triad experienced in Advaita, wherein the creator becomes the writer becomes a creator of the Mahabharata while retaining a sense of the Indic perspectives in the Indic philosophies, and creates a version which is, though different, is always true to the source. So in my view, this vision of the Navagunjara that Sarala Das gives us is a vision that has come to us through Advaita, and hence is a true vision of Krishna. So to ask the question again, the validity of knowledge, the Itihasa Mahabharata through regional retellings and folk stories is a valid knowledge accepted in Vedanta, wherein the knower, the knowledge, and the act of knowing become one and create a new way of understanding the infinite Indic cosmos, with the Navagunjara in the Sarla Mahabharata as a case study here. The Sarla Mahabharata's Vishwaroop Darshan. As mentioned before, there is no Bhagavad Gita in the Sarla Mahabharata. So, this particular episode of the Navagunjara, who is encountered by Arjuna while he's doing penance, and who he actually tries to kill, and then transcends his fear, recognizes the infinite, and then turns into a bhakta of Krishna again, and gets most probably a moksha like vision, is the vision of the Vishwaroop Darshan. Now, the Bhagavad Gita in the Vyasa Mahabharata gives us the knowledge of the gunas of Prakriti. As Navagunjara, Krishna is showing that he is deeply a part of Prakriti while being a Purusha who is not found within nature. Here we can see Krishna as the common ground of Prakriti and its gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, who is made of the creation. So we can see the oneness of the Creator God and the creation. To know and to be in Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta is more than just a philosophical system, it is an experiential way of knowing reality. And in this story, Arjuna experiences the cosmic reality as Navagunjara. And his experience is one of moving from the gunas of Prakriti, where he experiences fear, he experiences rage, he moves to a violent state of mind where he tries to kill the Navagunjara, and then he moves to complete Advaitic oneness when he sees that he standing in front of him is Vishwaroopa Krishna. And then from that point, he moves into the Bhakta state, and Krishna, as his teacher, enlightens him. So, this is the experience of Advaita, the practical experience of Advaita that we witness in this one motive for one single image of the Navagunjara. The oneness of the cosmos as experienced as a self understanding, where Arjuna goes from the understanding of his own fear of the cosmos, which is expressed through a creature that is completely unknown and in the form of different animals. And then he understands that the creature in front of him is no ordinary creature, but Krishna himself, his own teacher, his own friend, and also the creator of the cosmos. So this is a completely experiential Advaitic experience. Maya and Avidya in the story of the Navagunjara. In Maya, we look at Maya is, of course, a very essential concept in Advaita Vedanta. And in Maya, we look at how a rope is mistaken for a serpent. Due to the wheeling of Maya and Avidya, Arjuna is not able to recognize Krishna as Navagunjara. Due to Maya, Arjuna aims to shoot an arrow at Krishna. In the world of Maya, only only a set name or form or nama rupa is possible. So this creation, which is understood in Advaita Vedanta as Maya, allows only for a specific type of name and form. So when Krishna takes a form which is beyond this name and form, which is the Navagunjara, which is consisting of 9 creatures, then Krishna himself is, of course, beyond Maya, so he can take this form which is beyond the nama rupa, and hence he shows us that he is always beyond Maya, and he is beyond the name and form which is always the aspect of this creation. The importance of the Navagunjara story. The first story in Vyasa Mahabharata is of the cosmic egg, the egg of creation. The story of the Navagunjara too is creation Karanam and the creator Karta fable. The analogy of the clay. A clay pot remains clay, a gold bangle remains gold, and Krishna remains the universal self in all his forms. Krishna as the eternal teacher. Krishna in Navagunjara form shows us that as Ishvara in teacher form, he has an important lesson for Arjuna. And that lesson is never assume anything. He's smashing all the perceived notions of Arjuna with his form to give him to explain to him Advaita with the universe, and explain that all creatures are his own manifestation and he himself is beyond this universe of name and form. Dine Dine Navam Navam. Snakes and bulls are the animals revered in India, but that Krishna is described in Krishna Ashtakam as taking newer and newer forms every day. So if we recollect the Krishna Ashtakam, we remember that it says Dine Dine Navam Navam. Every day something new. So this is the new form of Krishna Navagunjara. The Vedic roots. Navakunjara as a concept is rooted in the Indian yogic traditions and in the Vedas itself. The Vedas are the worship of nature and deities. The Atharvana Veda, for example, is the worship of the earth and the healing ability of the natural world. Thus, the Vedic roots of this form of Krishna can be traced. Incidentally, the Atharvana Veda is led by the Atharvana Bhadrakali Pratyangira, who is in a half lion, half human form. Along with Pratyangira, there is Sharabeshwara form of Shiva, who is in a half bird and half lion form. And there is also the Gandha Berunda form of Lord Narasimha, and he is in a two-headed bird form. So as we can see, these deities, like the Navagunjara, are in a different form, which composes primarily of animals. The Upanishadic tradition. The Indian narrative tradition always encouraged and reflected plurality. This explains the diversity of stories. However, what the stories imply and represent is often rooted in a common set of philosophical ideas that are closely aligned with the Upanishadic tradition. So, my case here, or my point here, is that this image of the Navagunjara, which comes to us in the Sarla Mahabharata in the 15th century and subsequently carried forth through Odisha Pata Chitras, is actually a representation of the Brahman, which is coming to us from the Vedic tradition and then deeply rooted in the Advaitic Vedanta tradition. The goal of Vedanta is, of course, moksha. Vedanta is the goal of human condition, which is typically shrouded in grief and suffering. Now, there are three texts that are known as the Prasthanatraya, and they consist of the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutras. But the Bhagavad Gita, which is missing in the Sarla Mahabharata, has the Vishwaroop Darshan, and the Vishwaroop Darshan of Krishna is what is the Navagunjara image. Moksha is the goal of human life, and all index paths spoke of it. Images and stories of deities that make our mind one pointed and facilitate the process of moksha by making us aware of the higher power that runs the universe. So, what do we do with the Odisha Patachitra painting? These are images for dhyana, these are images for meditation, for yoga, wherein we make our mind one pointed and become aware of the different aspects of the universe so that we are able to overcome mundane suffering and mundane grief. Acts of seeing by the seer. Now we have to understand that the Upanishad, basically, what is the Upanishad about? The Upanishadic tradition is about the nature of the self. It is the nature of the seer. Who is the seer of the seeing mind? It is about what is the subject, and what is the object, and what is the subject observing. So it is about the nature of the observer and the observation. And when we look at such an incredible Adbhut form of Krishna, there is a dissolution of the subject object understanding in this Vishwaroop Darshan of Krishna as Navakunjara. So I come to my final section, which is the plurality in regional tellings, setting the context to the story of the Navagunjara in the Sarla Mahabharata. So far we looked at the image of the Navagunjara, and then examined it from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to see where, if this image, which is an unusual form of Krishna, has any precedence in the Sarla Mahabharata. Is it just a telling of Vyasa's Mahabharata? No, it is not. In fact, the Sarala Mahabharata is known for being a highly creative retelling of the Mahabharata. And Sarla himself was not educated in the traditional manner, and he was a self educated person who lived in a village called Kanakpura. And he was inspired by Sarla Devi, who is the goddess of inspiration, and who is said to have blessed him with speech, and also dictated in some versions the story of the Mahabharata to him. So, unless we see what exactly the Sarla Mahabharata contains, we will not be able to completely understand the context to which we got this image of the motive of the Navagunjara. So I will just take us through some of the some glimpses from the Sarla Mahabharata to help us understand that this was a different version of the Mahabharata, like many of the other regional retellings, and hence this image of Krishna comes to us from this particular varied recreation of the Mahabharata. So, glimpses of the Sarla Mahabharata, understanding the context to the story of the Mahabharata. So, the Mahabharata at its core in even all the regional retellings does draw from the Vyasa tradition, and there is something that is similar to the Vyasa tradition. So chapter after chapter, as you read the Sarla Mahabharata, we keep coming back to the same characters that we've encountered before in Vyasa, and yet there are significant differences, and these differences are coming from a tradition which Sarla understands, and at the same time he at the same time he recreates for the benefit of the audience. In the Sarla Mahabharata, Krishna is same as Jagannath, and that's because it comes from the local tradition of worship of Krishna as Jagannath. And also, there is a contemporary scholar of the Sarla Mahabharata, B.K. Patnaik, and what he has said is that the purpose of Vyasa Mahabharata is dharma, but the purpose of the Sarala Mahabharata is moksha. So the goal here is moksha, and it combines actually a lot of Puranic stories. So Sarla has written the Mahabharata. His name is Sarala Das, and his original name was Siddheshwar Parida, but because he is a devotee of the goddess Sarla, he takes up the name Sarala Das. So he has written three texts, and these texts are Sarla Mahabharata, Vilanka Ramayana, and Chandi Purana. And as the name suggests, one is the first Odia version of the Mahabharata, the second one is the Ramayana retelling or recreation, and the third one is the story of Durga versus Mahishasur. Now, now the thing is that in contemporary academic analysis, the words used to describe Sarla Das is he's a subversive writer, he's a subaltern writer. He can be studied through the lens of the subaltern, he can be studied through to understand but what I feel is that he still comes from the tradition. So while there are variations in the story, while there are folk elements added to the story, so various folk elements come in, a lot of Odia elements come in, but and his own imagination. But I feel it is rooted in the Bhakti tradition, it is rooted in the Moksha tradition, it is rooted in the Advaita tradition, and he doesn't. He, like all regional tellers, came from the Indic tradition. So while people do use the word subversive and subaltern in association with this Mahabharata, it is also another version of something which is a part of the vast Indic cosmos, which always included, was always inclusive, which always accepted diversity, which always accepted plurality. So this Sarla Mahabharata starts with a story of Ganga and Shantanu. But how it starts is very interesting. Now, King Shantanu was a great bhakta of Lord Shiva. Ganga appears on earth to marry Lord Shiva. So she has this desire to marry Lord Shiva, and she's on earth for with this objective. Now, King Shantanu was a great bhakta of Lord Shiva, and because of this, he would copy Lord Shiva's appearance and style. And Lord Shiva also blesses Shantanu that he will be known as the Dvitiya Shiva. Now, Ganga once encounters Lord Shiva, King Shantanu, dressed like Lord Shiva. So she becomes attracted towards him, thinking he is Lord Shiva. Now, Ganga's human father, a sage, wants Ganga to get married. So he notices that she's looking at King Shantanu, who is actually dressed like Lord Shiva. She is thinking he's Lord Shiva, but uh, but actually he's King Shantanu, and that's how the story starts. So as we can see, there are variations, but none of these variations are something that we can disbelieve also, because it is a fact that Ganga always was associated with Lord Shiva. So while the motives and narratives are reflect plurality and diversity, they are also rooted in a particular Indic tradition. This is Chitraveer. He was a son of Shantanu, not mentioned in Vyasa Mahabharata. And he was born when King Shantanu gazes at the painting of a woman. So these are just illustrations to give uh, to give a sense of the Sarla Mahabharata and explain the context to which the Navagunjara motif is a part of made part of the Indian consciousness through the Sarla Mahabharata. Satyavati in the Sarla Mahabharata meets King Shantanu when he leaves his two children, Chitraveer and Vichitraveer. We just saw Chitraveer in her care, and he's scared of what Ganga Devi would do. So, this is the thing. He's scared of what Ganga Devi is going to do. So, he leaves Chitraveer and Vichitraveer. So, there are these distinct variations from the story, and yet the characters are recognizable. So, when we talk about King Shantanu or we talk about Satyavati, or we talk about Vichitraveer, yes, they are recognizable and yet they are different. Bhim, when he was a child, was cursed by the Shakshring Parvat that he would lose any war the first time. In the Sarla Mahabharata, everybody knew that Karna was Kunti's son. When Kunti sees Madri in Sarla Mahabharata, she thinks her son will be more powerful than my son. So, this is very interesting because the notion of sort of jealousy is central to the Vyasa Mahabharata. And the Pandavas and Kauravas are distinct because amongst the Pandavas are one, whereas the Kauravas are known to be jealous of the Pandavas, and in unison, the Kauravas are jealous of the Pandavas. But here we can see that there is within the Pandava fraction itself, Kunti experiences a sort of jealousy towards Madri. And so, this is a very interesting translation. So, I just wanted to share that. In the Sarala Mahabharata, Kunti, after she returns to the palace after Pandu and Madri's death, goes every day with Gandhari to bathe in the Bhagirathi river. Gandhari comes in royal honor, like a queen, every day, and Kunti arrives in great simplicity, and they both have this ritual where they bathe in the river. Both Kunti and Gandhari would also visit the Virajeshwar temple below the Nilopal mountain. So, this is a local temple, and they would visit at a different time each day, and they never knew that the other was visiting the temple. Then Gandhari gets angry with Kunti and asks, "How dare you have the courage to visit, to worship in this temple or worship in a temple?" So there are questions like this about the country because Kunti has just, Pandu has died, and this sort of questioning is seen in this version. In the Sarla Mahabharata, both Krishna and Bhima are not content. Their absence of content is an attribute of their selves. So, there is a conversation in which Krishna is described as not being thript with, the word used is tripti. So, he's not thript with bhakti, he's not thript with knowledge, he's not thript with devotion, he's not thript with ritual. And similarly, Bhima is not thript in a sense with the say food itself, which is more material. So while Krishna is not thript with the various aspects of the substance of Indic philosophy and Indic culture, which are always offered to him by everybody, all the sages, Bhima is not thript with the basic aspects of life. So this absence of contentment is known as is here. Similarly, in contrast, something that we won't find anywhere else, in Sarla Mahabharata, Shakuni feels extreme guilt after the war. So he feels responsible for the war. In the Sarla Mahabharata, Krishna makes the war inevitable by asking for two villages that Duryodhan can basically never part with. So, just like in the story of Trivikrama, Bali loses everything. Some Duryodhan would have lost everything if he had accepted to give away the two specific villages that Krishna asked for. And because of this, Krishna ensures that war becomes inevitable. And finally, there is a sort of a small folk narrative, and it shows that a Vanvasi shoots an arrow at Dushasana for misbehaving with a girl when the Kauravas visit a forest to get a sacrificial boar for killing Guru Drona. And this is sort of like a repeat of, or a precedent to the Draupadi Vastraharan scene. So, those were some of the aspects of the Sarla Mahabharata, and I brought them in to set the context to the Navagunjara motif that we studied in depth today, along with its Advaitic inferences and the fact. But for me, the most interesting thing was the creation of such regional retellings itself is a process of Advaita. It is through Advaita that these regional retellings are getting created, where the knower, the known, and the act of knowing become one. Does anybody have any questions?
We may check here in the question and answer box if we have questions.
Yes, sir.
Lalita ji is saying, thanks for opening up Sarla Das's Mahabharat. Peacock is Kanda's Vahana and the rooster is seen on his flag. That's a comment, it's not a question.
Yes, yes, that's correct, sir.
Thank you, Lalita ji, for saying this. Any more questions? Okay. So, those are the, that's a good comment. Thank you, Swetha, for making a wonderful presentation. It was very detailed and lot of insights also. The Advaita aspect, I think, has not been covered earlier by other publications. So you might want also to do more work on this. This will anyway get published on our design Indica today. We are going to upload this video. All the audience, we are going to upload the videos of these talks to our YouTube channel. So this is going to be a very interesting way of looking at Navagunjara from an Advaitic perspective. Thank you, Swetha ji.